Okay, good evening. The Design Review Board public meeting of January 12th, 2017 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project that is returned for redesign by the Design Review Board must completely fill out one of the postcards provided by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available on our city's website at www.glendaleca.gov. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his discretion. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Benlian.
Here.
Board Member Charchian.
Here.
Board Member Malikian.
Here.
And Chairman Simonian.
Present.
The report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on January 5th, 2017. Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. I have no oral communication cards. I do not believe any.
Neither do I, yeah.
None were turned in, which leads us to staff announcements. Today's item is the election of a new chairperson. So I'm not sure if the board is ready and prepared to elect a new chair, or if you'd like to wait, we can do so at the end of the meeting if you like.
I didn't know it was on calendar.
Well, it's the first of the year. We're all here
Yeah.
because we want, obviously there's a vacancy until April, so
Right.
today's the day. Any comments on now or later?
Let's just do it at the end.
We'll do it at the end.
With the minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Which brings us to tonight's Design Review Board agenda. Originally, there were 5 cases on this evening's agenda. The last case, which was for 1640 Thurber Place, this particular case has to be continued for 2 weeks until the next subsequent Design Review Board meeting on January the 26th, 2017.
And we had 5 originally on tonight's calendar agenda.
Correct.
Is the other one as well continued to the same hearing?
The last case is continued for 2 weeks. Then there were 3 cases on Marion Drive, 3 new single-family homes. Those projects, unfortunately, were not properly noticed on site, and the story poles were not put up. So those have to be taken off the calendar and are continued indefinitely. So those will be re-noticed. All occupants and owners will be sent a new public notice for those projects.
So it's not like we're heavily burdened the next meeting?
No.
Okay.
No. So I would just make note of that. So tonight's cases on Marion Drive, that's 1800 Marion Drive, 1820 Marion Drive, and 1830 Marion Drive. The first 3 cases are continued indefinitely and will be renoticed. And the last case on this evening's agenda, 1640 Thurber Place, is continued for a period of 2 weeks. Which leaves us to the one and only case on tonight's agenda, 3160 Linda Vista. So I'd like to turn the meeting either over to Chairman Simonian or to the case planner, Mr. Dennis Cho.
Thank you so much, and a Happy New Year. We'll start off with case PDR 1626396. And Mr. Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm just going to approach the board and give a brief presentation.
Yes, please.
Project summary for this design review case is a first-time review of a single-family home that's 2-story, approximately 2,600 square feet with a 411 square foot 2-car garage. It's on a property that is approximately 13,500 square feet. It's irregular in shape. It has a concave topography, which from this is Linda Vista Drive, where it has a bowl shape, and it has a concave topography where it slopes downwards as it approaches the Blue Line Stream that meanders down the middle of the parcel, and it approaches upslopes as it approaches the south property line over here, where this says Cornwall Drive, but Cornwall Drive is an abandoned road. There are 11 protected trees. Nine of them are 9 coast live oaks, 2 are sycamores. 0 trees are being removed as part of this project. And once again, there is a blue line stream that's protected that goes down right down the middle of the lot. Per our Chapter 16, there's supposed to be a 30-foot buffer from the center line of the blue line stream, which they're complying. In 2011, there was a single-family home that sustained major damage by a fire. The existing home was a 2-story, had a 2-story profile, and with the packets for the site photos, it's on the front cover, so you can see it's very similar of what they're proposing here, but we'll get into the detail of the design here. But the exhibit of the photograph of the previous home is was on the photographs of the site. Remnants on the property of the previous home are a flat building pad from the previous home, a stone chimney that's standing, a retaining wall, a landscape retaining wall that is along the southern property line, and it partially goes over into the adjacent property, which I'll get into the conditions of approval, what we're recommending, and they're going to have to do as part of zoning compliance. But they're maintaining an asphalt driveway that takes access from Linda Vista Road, and it crosses an existing wood bridge. And before this application in October in 2016, the hearing officer approved a variance. We requested 2 deviations. One is to maintain the 6-foot interior setback, as you can see here, from the interior property line. That's where the setback is for the existing footing and the previous home. And also maintain an existing driveway that has a 21% slope, which requires today a maximum of 20. Going back to the 6-foot interior setback, by code today for a new home, it's 10 feet, so they were approved with a 6-foot setback. Included with the hearing officer's variance approval was an initial study, which included with a final mitigated negative declaration, which included mitigation measures with protection for the blue line stream, just maintaining the 30-foot setback, and also including conditions by the certified arborist of record for construction methods to protect the 11 oak trees, or I'm sorry, the 11 trees on site. Going on to the design of the projects, overall staff feel the project has done very well. Once again, it will be sited above the existing footings of the previous home. Essentially almost no grading, but very minimal. The only thing that they're going to be grading is to enlarge the footprint of the garage, which will still maintain outside the 30-foot buffer area, to have a compliant 20 by 20 interior garage. It will have an extensive setback, approximately 76 feet from a street front setback from Linda Vista Drive. A vehicular access will maintain from Linda Vista from that existing asphalt driveway as well. Massing, it will have a 2-story configuration. It will be reduced as it will be sited at lower portions of the lot as viewed from Linda Vista Road, and it will blend well with the neighborhood context, and will once again be situated on this existing flat pad. The new 2-story home will be broken into 3 separate volumes. As you can tell here, there's the middle one would be the center volume here, which is clad in stone. It will include horizontal elements that help reduce massing, which includes the flat roof, which is broken into 2 different levels. It has a sheet metal band course as it kind of wraps around through the building. Metal cladded parapets, and then horizontal lap siding, as you can see here on the material board, which they're providing. It seems like they have different exposure heights, but we can talk about that later on. Overall, the building forms and materials will relate well in relation with one another. The contemporary design of the building finishes blends well with the natural hillside. The architectural design elements include, once again, like the horizontal siding. In the report, we mentioned it was going to be recessed windows, but after getting clarification, there's a section drawing here that was provided by the architect who's here present, it's going to be a nail-on configuration, but also it's going to have a surround trim that you might have some definition, but it does provide a transition piece, which is more pronounced on the 3D rendering, as you can see here, and it's not as pronounced on the elevations, but it does provide that trim piece that has the transition between the materials. Staff still supports a nail-on window not being recessed as far as this design here. Also includes sheet metal band cores, and they're going to reuse a stone from the remnant chimney and reapply it as a base, and also in the center volume is here as well. Before I get into staff's recommendation and conditions, staff received 2 letters yesterday and today by email in support. One of them was from a neighbor. The Mrs. name was Jane, I forget her name, but also we got a letter of support from the president of the Chevy Chase Estates Homeowner Association, Mr. Brian Duran, in support of the project as well. Overall, staff recommends approval with conditions. One, it was just the existing 6-foot-high block wall, or we call it the landscape retaining wall, the south property line here. To comply with today's code, walls within 5 feet of the interior property line have a maximum height of 5 feet. As you can tell from the section drawing here, it changes in height from 5 feet 9, almost 6 feet, and then 5'3". But anything that's within 5 feet, we want to comply with the zoning code, and also for the landscape wall that encroaches into the adjacent property, we need to get that outside of away from their property. And the second condition is they're proposing, once again, the cedar plank sidings. If a building and safety is requiring an alternate material because it is a high fire hazard area, we want to give some flexibility to use like a cementitious fiberboard, as they're proposing here, as a James Hardy plank siding. I had a brief discussion with building and safety. They were saying it just depends on how they treat it as far as this type of wood cedar plank material. And I wasn't sure how they were going to do it, but to give them the flexibility and maybe get comments from the board, we wanted to give them that flexibility. But that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll definitely be available to answer.
Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the suggestion or condition by staff is that we ask them to reduce the 5'9" to 6 foot tall retaining wall by a foot to get into the 5 foot.
By zoning code, retaining walls within 5 feet of an interior property line, the maximum height is 5 feet.
So what the recommendation is that we ask them to shave it off?
Yes.
And part of
They,
it to
they
move
have
it.
to.
Move the tail end of it.
Move the tail end that's encroaching into the adjacent property.
Just like
But
a
that's
couple of
a
feet.
zoning issue. It's not a DRB issue. Right?
We're just kind of pronouncing it out right now,
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
You answered one of my questions with the higher fire zone and the use of the cedar siding. The second is the reuse of the existing stone from the existing chimneys. There's quite a bit of stone veneer here. Is there enough on site to do all the stonework?
That's a very good question. Maybe perhaps the architect can help break in. I'm not too sure if there's any materials that can match it, but that's definitely a really good question.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Thank you.
As usual, great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start off with, and we'll open up the public portion. I have a card from an owner and also the applicant. Who would like to start?
I'll start. I'm the applicant.
Come on up, Mr. Peters, Jonathan Peters.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Name for the record.
My name is Jonathan Peters. I'm the architect of record for this project at 3160 Linda Vista Road. And just to give you a little bit of background, I'm a licensed architect in California, but I've never done a single-family home before, but I agreed to help my very good friends who we work together. We all work at Disney together, so I'm helping them out with this process and learning a lot as I go along. So if I don't say the right things or if I don't, you know what I mean? If this meeting seems a little bit weird that you have a licensed architect that's never done this before, that's
Well, your
why.
work is good.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'll start with that.
So But to give you a little bit of background on this job, the Comoris have been, searching for a new home to start a family and for a long time, and they haven't really found anything they like. They love the area, and as they were driving, they saw this site and just fell in love with it. And you can see why. If you visited the site, the natural characteristics are amazing. There's 11 protected trees. There's wonderful oak trees. This stream that flows through it that always seems to have water in it, even when we're in the middle of a drought. And it's very pastoral and tranquil and just quite lovely. So they wanted to design a home that really captured the spirit of the site, but would also take a more modern take on what was there before. I think it's fair to say that they would have purchased the house as it existed in 2011 before it burned down. They loved that design. So our goal was to take that style of design and apply it to a more kind of modern aesthetic. I think Dennis did an excellent job running through the features of the site, and along with that theme, we really wanted to make sure that we were building something that was well designed, fit well with the quality of the site, wouldn't be obtrusive, but would be comfortable to live in, and just have a nice quality both inside and out. So I think that's pretty much it.
Any questions for the architect?
You did have a question about the ability for the amount of stone. So you are correct. We're not quite sure if there's enough stone in the chimney, but it is a fairly common style of slate. So we're confident that we can match that with new stock.
And you have some of that existing around the little stem walls and
yes,
garden walls.
We do. And the garden walls and things, all the natural site features that are out there, we're trying to retain most of those too. Not only for aesthetic reasons, but also budget reasons.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I appreciate the disclaimer you gave. So I'm going to be a little bit more kind of focused on the areas that I have a question on,
sure.
so I'll kind of help you kind of think about the answer. But my first question is, assuming that understand that you've provided this and the basis of the design was kind of using what was there and kind of create a new rendition of that. So I appreciate that. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is that have you had this building looked by a structural engineer?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
So I have some notes for him, if I may read
Yes.
his notes. And we're currently in the process of getting soil reports and everything like this to prove the code, loading and everything meets current code requirements, even though we're using an older foundation. But this is based on his observation and his studies of the site. The foundation system is currently exposed and visibility of its condition is unobstructed. I performed an on-site assessment of the condition of the foundation system with the owner present. I found the stem walls and retaining walls to be intact, plumb, and true. There was a nearly complete absence of cracking or spalling of the concrete. No undermining or evidence of erosion was visible. The condition of the system is remarkably good. The proposed structure is of a similar size and building type in pursuit of conformance with the existing foundation. The loading of the proposed structure has been laid out by the architect and structural engineer to conform to the geometry and capacity of the original structure and the existing foundation system according to code minimum soil bearing capacity. Such a use of code loading is appropriate given the in situ evidence of the stability of the surrounding geology.
Appreciate that, but my question wasn't for the foundation, it was more of the building itself. The windows placement that you have located on the elevation doesn't kind of translate or transfer onto the plan. So one of the questions is that if the structural engineer had a chance to look at your design itself and the opening. So
yes, he has.
You answered
Yes,
my question.
yes.
The second question is that some of these windows that you've placed in, particularly in the back or even around the perimeter, it seems like you've used an aluminum window. But one of the questions that I have is that have you had a chance to look at the windows in relation to the new energy requirements that are going to be mandated? I don't know if you can use an aluminum window anymore for a single-family house, so I don't know that. Don't quote me on this, but that's something that needs to be looked at. The second question is the egress windows for the bedrooms, particularly the one number 3. the picture square window, I don't think that meets that. So you're going to need to have a window that opens and also bring fresh air into that. So that picture window opening, I don't know if that does that. So when you're done with that, that window is going to change, and we need to discuss how much of the primary, our purpose is to give a approval on almost the final view of what we're going to see at the end. If it's going to evolve as the codes change and as the codes gets developed and updated, we have to make a decision if we're just going to leave it up to staff to review and approve, or it has to come back. So I'm just kind of giving you that.
Okay.
And lastly, it seems like compared to the chimney that I see at the existing and the renderings, is it the same? You're not planning to add on to?
No, we're completely demolishing the existing chimney and then salvaging the material and then constructing a new that stair tower. So, but it's not the same structure.
Okay. And you have no way of getting a hold of the existing building heights or anything, how tall they were or anything like that compared to what is there? No?
We did a record search with everything that was available. I think the house was constructed in the mid-50s, and so we have permits and things, but no drawings.
That's fine. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Any other questions for the architect? You answered one of my questions that had to do with the footing, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker, which one would like to go first?
Okay.
Come on up, state your name for the record.
Excuse me. I'm Nicholas Mooring. I'm the owner of the property. So today is a huge milestone for us. We spent the last year getting a variance to reuse the existing driveway so there would be the least amount of environmental impact to the beautiful trees and blue line stream that surround our property. My wife and I absolutely love this lot of land. It is truly a hidden gem and natural park so close to the neighboring cities. The original house design that was here was loved by the community, a very cool mid-century modern style with a cabin-like feel. We wanted to pay homage to that house with our new design by reusing some of the original characteristics, including the same footprint. Today, the original fireplace still stands. We could not reuse it because we could not find the original construction plans and knew it would be a challenge with earthquake safety. We also didn't have the budget to try and reinforce it. What we have done is relocate the main internal stairwell to resemble that fireplace and are planning on using a lot of the original stone veneer for its siding. We also did not want our house to stand out amongst the neighbors, but add to the overall charm of the neighborhood. We are planning on using similar stone and cedar siding that many of the neighboring houses have on this side of Linda Vista. I hope you love the design as much as we do. Jonathan and I have had a lot of extra time this year to really refine it.
Thank you. Jessica, good evening.
Hello, I'm Jessica Kamoring. I just want to say that I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to see this plot of land. We've certainly had a lot of opportunities. We visited every weekend for the last 2 years almost. Spent a lot of time there, just parking the car, bringing the dog, bringing some lunch, looking for the family of deer that always happens to show up when we're there, watching out for the coyotes that sometimes make their presence known, looking at the hawks that fly over in the sky, and just gazing in awe at the incredible trees that we're surrounded in, the rich history of the area. It's absolutely remarkable. I could never have imagined that I would ever have an opportunity to live in a place as beautiful as this. And I'm very grateful to be standing here today in front of you to say that my husband and Jonathan have put so much time and energy into this project, and we want to do this right. And I'm just really honored to be able to stand here and tell you how excited I am that we're finally getting a chance to show it to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. since there were no opposition or anybody else from the audience, there's really no need for a rebuttal by the architect unless we have other questions for the architect. So with that, we'll go ahead and, yes?
Staff.
Mr. Chair, the applicant brought another siding material as an alternative. It seems like it has a much larger exposure height. Maybe we can get some clarification on the intent or which material he has preference in. Oh, sample. Oh, okay.
You're referring to the horizontal.
Right. I think that maybe he was just talking about
this. Up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we could go ahead through the comments, and then we'll review the conditions, and then maybe if we have any other questions, we could then get clarification. Sure. But am I hearing that maybe there's two options to consider?
I just noticed the board might have multiple options there. After looking at the third one, I wasn't too sure if that was supposed to be a siding material or was that just providing us.
Do you mind coming up and
Sure.
pointing this up? Because I realize there's a couple of cedar examples.
Well, I know that he has two options of the cedar here, and then he has an option for the hardy plank just in case he's not able to meet the building code as far as it being treated. So this would be
And then there's a fourth one. Is that the fence material or other?
From my understanding, this was just brought today, and I thought maybe we'd get some clarification since the applicant and the homeowner brought it in, and I thought this might have been a siding material, which it seems like it might be, but perhaps maybe we can just ask to figure out what is the preference and then maybe figure out what their intent is, because I can definitely see there's a bigger exposure, and I can be totally wrong if this is a siding material or not, but yeah, just in case we have clarification questions or something like that. So.
We'll ask the architect. Okay, thank you. If you would, Mr. Peters, come up if you would.
Sure, I'll actually defer to Nick because he's the one that's chosen.
We can't be having cross communication,
Okay.
so one of you guys come up. Your name for the record?
Nicholas Kamori.
Okay, thank you. My experience has been in the R1R fire zones. Fire department typically asks for non-combustible building material to wrap the building.
Fire retardant.
Fire retardant. So it either has to be a 2x cedar or some sort of.
It has to have a nominal thickness. There's a website that I think State Fire Marshal has, and it dictates all the materials that are available that can be used in the high fire zone. But at the same time, if the fire rating is not met, then additional probably of fire treatment or other types of construction will have to happen so that
like an exterior drywall or something.
So a lot of that, but at the same time, you have quite a bit of choices here. But the last one, what was that? Is that just a stain, or is it something?
I actually was able to get in contact with the lumber mill that I was looking at for providing the siding for the house, and so I wanted to get more of a true example to everyone.
That the thickness of that like almost what is it, 6-8 inches?
8. Looks like a quarter.
It's an 8-inch, yeah. So it's a 70. So it's a shiplap. So this is what you're going to be proposing to use.
My name is Jonathan Peters.
I knew we needed the architect.
So just to clarify, so Nick has been really, because we're working on this together, Nick was searching out the materials and the vendors to supply it. He asked for a cedar siding sample. They sent one. We didn't specify a size of the sample. That sample is purely to show texture and finish, but we're proposing a 6-inch shiplap siding for this project.
And the thickness?
The thickness, that is, I'm not sure what the thickness is. With the fire code requirement, we can just order it with the thickness required.
Okay.
Or we propose the alternative hardy plank if the cedar turns out to not be acceptable or not available. So, but the intent would be to, provide the material thickness as required.
Okay. Well, thank you. So ultimately, I think you're going to end up with a really thicker material if you want to use it, probably.
Unless you go with the hardy board.
Unless you go with the hardy board, in which case it already comes factory finished, factory painted. You don't have to worry about those things, and there's a slew of colors to pick from. and you could order the corner trims, etc. So on that note, we could talk about basically an option and then just really pick the finish that if he does go down the cedar route, which color of the stains is more appropriate, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, can I say something about the
Sure.
the siding? I just wanted to bring that siding in to show that the difference, that kind of like the luster and depth you get with natural wood versus the hardy board. So that, the cedar would be my preference as far as the overall design and finish and beauty of the house. And the hardy board, I was proposing for the backside where the sun would hit it, so that there wasn't a constant, a lot of maintenance involved. But either way,
It's a little bit interesting to propose a kind of a fire or not a non-retardant material on a site on the property that was burned down.
No,
So you want to propose
I
something
completely
that is a
understand.
fire retardant and a little bit more, but again, it's kind of
I completely understand. Another thing we were thinking about was having fire sprinklers on the roof, if that would help as well. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the public portion. Mr. Ballian, you want to start us off this
Sure.
evening?
So when I started reviewing this project, I looked at the photograph of the old house that was burned, and I saw that you guys are trying to get something modern looking and still keep the same kind of features. So there are multiple things I liked about this project. I mean, right from the get-go, and I'll go through them. I think I have like 4 or 5 items that I really like, and then I have maybe one issue. So the main thing I liked about this is, I mean, we normally don't get letters of approvals from this association, and I mean that shows that you guys took the time to work with them and work with the neighbors, and as you can see, there's nobody opposing the project, so that's a very good thing. And I think most of the board members or all of the board members appreciate that, and staff as well. So thank you for doing that. That's the first thing. The second thing is we've been getting a lot of projects up in the areas in the woodlands and the Chevy Chase and that area, yeah. And most of the projects we get a tree report and a tree removal report. And most of them talk about we're only taking 2 trees, and we're only taking 1, and we're only going to replace it by this. I mean, this is one also of the first reports that we get no tree removal. So you guys are making our job easier when it comes to that as well. So the third thing is I like that a hillside job with no grading or minimum grading. So that's a big thing. So thank you for doing that as well. And the last thing that I really like a lot about this job is that you guys went through the headache of getting the variance to basically reuse what's there just to save the trees and to minimize all that. So I think all these things add a lot when it comes, it means a lot when it comes to us and to staff as well. Now, in terms of design, I like the overall design. I like the volumes. I think the contemporary look is there. There is something missing in the design, though. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's the staircase, if it's just too much of that stone. I don't know. I like the idea of reusing the stone, but maybe not going all the way and creating that tower. I think it's kind of overwhelming. And I think there is a bit a lack of detail. If you look at the old house and you look at the new house, and you can see the old from the photo, there's more detail to it. I think it's just minor issues, maybe just rethinking that stair tower and just enhancing the details when it comes to, Mr. Malikian had touched up on the windows, on things like that. But I think overall, I'm in support of the project. That's it, Mr. Simonian.
Thank you. Mr. Tarchin?
Thank you. So I happened upon this lot, I think, 3 years ago, and I wondered to myself, when is this going to be developed, and what kind of large home are we going to be dealing with on this lot? So I joined Mr. Billion in his comments that it's good to see a property owner who has looked at the property and said that we're going to develop it sensibly and not try to maximize the size of the property, in which case most likely we would be dealing with tree removals and other issues. And also to join your comment in stating that going through the process of keeping the bridge, keeping the driveway, getting those variances to not disturb the property are also admirable. I like the design. I think that it does pay homage to the previous home that was there. The monumentality of the new proposed staircase is not as big of a factor. I am concerned about some of the window layouts. I think Title 24 is going to change a lot of what's here with the energy efficiency requirements. I'm not sure if fiberglass is a good alternative or not, but it's getting harder and harder to have these types of windows in residential projects. But overall, I'm in support of the project. I don't see many issues. And as far as the conditions of staff, those are, from a design perspective, I think that doesn't play in with the 5 feet variance on that wall. It's a zoning issue. And from a design perspective, I don't think it changes things. In fact, it makes it smaller. So from a design perspective, it's fine. That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Tarchin. Mr. Malakian?
So I'm going to talk about the design itself, and I'm going to give some thoughts and ideas that that will reflect back to the original design and where it's coming from, where it's going. So I appreciate seeing what was there before. So that gives me a better understanding of why the footprint and the shape and all that stuff. Obviously, the foundation and everything was there. So one of the big differences that I see, and I think that's where I have your answer, is that the original design that was there was a post and beam design, which it was handcrafted, handmade, and it was custom made to fit in between the framework of the design that it was proposed. Whereas what we're seeing now, the difference is that it's preset manufactured, what you can find as a standard windows that you can buy from the manufacturer, and that is dictating the design of the windows and the placement. That is the big difference, in my opinion. I think it's if we want to look at this and we want to go and try to mimic what was there before, I think placing a standardized windows and doors and openings, because that's what's being made and that's what's standard off the shelf, that's where the conflict, in my opinion, comes into play. And therefore you end up having these large and uneven headrooms between this window versus the door versus here, there, this, and then you have a rendering that the window goes all the way to the top. So you have all these different conditions, and then there's a difference between here and here. So these are all dictated by what size of a window that you can buy and you can place in. I think I'm fine with keeping certain things standard, but if the biggest features that you were creating, I think we need to, my consideration, my comment would be is to try to see if we can introduce some of the older details that was there and bring that in and be able to kind of utilize. And just the example that I want to make is that instead of having this set, either if you want to, and I, based on the drawings, I don't know which is an openable, which is a slider, which is a casement, which is, the double, the pivot ones, and I don't know which they are. But assuming that this is a stacking glass that it stacks over, I would either have two options. One is that if this is a stackable, maybe it stacks out in the middle and then have a post that these go all the way to the top so that you bring back what was there. You bring the full height window glass that was there, and essentially you create these vertical elements and as you had it back then. At the same time, when you start looking at this, one of the interesting things about that older design was that the siding was in vertical, not horizontal. And by creating this as horizontal and making these long gestures, but then at the same time you're putting these long windows, I think there's a conflict there. I think there's definitely, this is trying to be a vertical element, whereas all the windows are these vertical, but then you're introducing these horizontal sidings. So that to me is again in a conflict. So I think simplifying, leveling out some of these head heights, figuring out a kind of a focal section, a focal point as you're driving in, wow, this is what was there before, this is what we're proposing now. Maybe you don't need to put a post in or put these in as it was there, just raise this up, bring it all the way to the top. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that's going to do. Either, you know, it may not be available. Like if you're going with the standard, maybe you want to think about doing something different there. I don't know what that's going to entail. And then you have these two windows coming together in the corner, and you may want to consider, maybe you want to cut this and then introduce the same kind of a material so that you see this two corners as one. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe if I can get the pointer. So if you have, like, for example, like you have this large window here, and then, but it's cut with this. So what if this little section is cladded with the same material as the window? So then now you see this whole thing as one. It's like a corner glass kind of an element there. So it kind of, it takes away from these vertical, because as you come down, it gets wider here. So it really doesn't make any difference. I don't see this top and the bottom tying together in a aesthetic way. Also, these windows that are placed here, I think the simple large gestures of picture windows that you've created, these smaller windows, brings in this like this 80s like Michael Bay-ish kind of
postmodern.
Yeah, postmodern kind of a detail there. So I think what I would do is I would probably look into maybe a kind of a rectangular shape, maybe taking one of these shapes and kind of being a more proportional instead of just all these windows and this punching opening. So I think then it will accentuate this verticality of this stone with this kind of a proportioned window placement there. Again, when you're done with these are either going to be there. I don't think you're going to have this big, large window that opens up because this thing needs to open up. You know, I don't think you can even reach out that far to open up to get the egress or the fire egress. So I think you may end up having a divider in the middle or some sort of a slider or something. So that will change the design itself. So I think cleaning up some of these head heights and and then kind of going back to what was there, understanding what was important in the past design and what's now, and putting all of these together, I think is going to really help to define the project much better.
Thank you, Mr. Malakian. I concur with some of Mr. Bellion's comments regarding the site orientation, your layout, the ability to kind of use the existing footprint, and it's a beautiful part of Glendale. That entire Linda Vista is wonderful, and this is kind of an unusual site within the Chevy Chase Canyon in that it's somewhat flat and you have a buildable area, so you're utilizing it. And And you're proposing a two-story building, and you haven't really heard any comments from this board, and nor do you have any comments from me about mass and scale. So that's usually one of the biggest things we deal with when a two-story is dealt with or proposed in a hillside area is, oh, it's too massive, it's too big, proportions aren't right, it doesn't fit into the landscape, it doesn't nestle into the landscape. So, Mr. Peters, you've done a good job in working with the mass and the scale of the house, and you're proposing a reasonably sized home, and I think all those are positive. And it's not easy to start off with the existing footings and try to make something contemporary work, and at the same time work with existing codes. Insofar as aluminum windows are concerned and whatnot, Mr. Malikian is right. You're going to have some issues with Title 24 calculations that need to be done. You might need to go to a 2x6 framing and have additional insulation in your walls to get enough of a, to get that coefficient to work on an aluminum window, in which case, some of your windows could start to get recessed, which would really add to that character. So aluminum windows do kind of work well with the mid-century home, but you might have to upgrade the thicknesses to make that work. So that's something that comes up. Overall, I think your preference should be to kind of go with a fire retardant material. I live in the Chevy Chase Canyon. We dealt with the fires a couple of years ago, and it's scary. I mean, you see the fire coming over the hill, and you have no control. And so you really want to wrap all your fascias with brake metal, have that kind of a cementitious exterior material, because it's worth it on the long run, plus less maintenance, especially as the sun is beating on it. And you had mentioned kind of a difference between the rear and the front as far as material. I think it's small enough of a home where you probably pick a material and go with it, and that way you're not going to have these odd instances where different materials are coming to a corner from both sides, and how do you deal with it? Now, insofar as the windows are concerned, your exit windows for the bedrooms, each bedroom needs to have an exit window that's operable, it needs to have a certain width. So what typically ends up working, and we'll make some recommendations, is hung windows end up working well in these kind of mid-century modern homes. They just tend to kind of look better and work as opposed to a slider. And like as you've talked about a hopper window or other things, you just can't get the exiting out of it. It just doesn't work. You could have one big casement that opens up, but it's hard to open up a big thing. It's just not practical. And so that's something that needs to be worked out. And you had the traditional mid-century homes. In essence, they had a lot of floor-to-window glazing, and then, of course, you had the T&G roofs that came inside and out, and then you kind of integrated all that with the interior and exterior of the roof kind of leading into it. And so I think what we're missing is that one last bit of detail to kind of holistically make this work. And so overall, I think the renderings depict a much nicer image than the elevations, and that just maybe because, as you mentioned, it's not something you do every day, so you're not really integrating all the tricks as you would to make the color elevations pop out. But when I'm looking at the renderings, and I'm kind of envisioning the hardy siding and the wrapped fascias and the metal stairs and the stone veneer, starting to get there. So I would, I'm in support of the project. However, I think we do need to work out some of those windows. The center, we'll just call it the staircase area, the stone veneer, could benefit from a simpler window placement. Your multi-slider at the corner of the living room, if you're going to have a floor-to-ceiling thing, as Mr. Malakian is doing, or as suggested, or other thoughts, I think you would benefit in that. You would benefit in having a continuous, unanimous header height for all the windows, so they all kind of start matching, and it'll help interior-wise too. You're suggesting a high ceiling, right? It's about a 12-foot clear. And so once you go with a high ceiling like that, and you go with a floor-to-ceiling multi-slide, that gets extremely expensive to have a 12-footer multi-slide. So then you're going to have maybe an 8-footer with glass above, in which case then you got to deal with how to break that up and what sort of a metal header or something you're integrating into that area, and you're wrapping it in metal. So it starts to get complicated. And those are the differences between a nice mid-century home and not so nice mid-century home. So we'll discuss it internally, but overall I think the mass and scale, site orientation, all that is there. So I support the project with some of the conditions that we'll ultimately talk about, and those are my thoughts. Can we quickly go over the conditions that we have so far?
We have the original conditions.
Yes. Condition number 1 was the existing 6-foot-high retaining wall along the southern property line that is within 5 feet of the property line shall be reduced 5 feet to comply with zoning code requirement standards. Portions of the existing retaining wall that project into the southern property adjacent shall be removed. So I know that's what Board Member Charging. It's more of a zoning rather than design. And the second one is it is more of a design-focused condition. If an alternative exterior covering is required by Building and Safety Division to comply with building code, cementitious lap siding board can be applied as an alternate siding material.
Okay.
Well, that's one thing we need to clarify, because the owner indicated that he was going to wrap it in 2 different sidings, right, if given the choice. So are we okay with that?
As I indicated it on my comments, I think the size of the home, as small as it is, it would make sense to pick one material and go with it, as opposed to 2.
And also on the elevation, there's an elevation that is calling out smooth plaster, so I don't think it's kind of a mistake.
Well, that's a mistake.
Mistake, right. So I think, I agree, I think just one type of species or material that they can use, and just go with that.
And then is there a preference for the stain color? Because we have a few different ones up here. They're all similar, except the bottom one's a little more in the, I don't know, brown. Well, is there a preference? I don't really particularly have a preference between them. So, so we'll kind of go through these one by one. As far as the exterior material is concerned, there's overall support for picking one material. And if cementitious horizontal siding is...
You had horizontal. Board Member Malikian was proposing that it be vertically oriented as the original design.
Well, then let's simplify this condition for now.
Okay.
One exterior material.
Right.
And if it's not, and if based on the samples that were submitted, kind of architect's choice for the stain finish. So that takes care of the materials, and the architect's already gone on record saying there's no smooth stucco. Okay. And so now we get to some of the conditions insofar as the windows.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the easy one as far as the exiting is concerned, right? So many different types of windows we could choose from, not a big list. Do we want to prescribe one saying go with hung or et cetera? Is there a preference by anybody on the board?
I mean, just design-wise, I think it needs to work with the overall design. I don't think we have a choice of. I mean, there's certain sizes that they have to meet. It needs to be certain height from the floor, so it kind of dictates what it ends up being. But it's just a matter of how large of a window. If a section of that window is openable, section is fixed. You have comes from, just endless.
And so, Mr. Malikan, since you kind of brought up the window conditions, are you comfortable with, stating a condition overall that holistically deals with these matters? Or how would you like to proceed with that section?
I mean, if all of you guys are okay with what it's being proposed and not kind of carrying what was there before, because I really, truly appreciate the original design, the transparency of the design. I mean, it's just, it gives you all that. But then, we have all these now windows that are being placed based on what's available. So if you guys are okay with that, and having all these different heights, I mean, the renderings are nice, you kind of get a bigger picture, but at the end of the day, I really don't think those windows are going to look like that by the time they're done with an actual thing.
That was a concern for me because having gone through a Title IV mess personally, having to redesign windows, we might not be able to get this type of window, and it might not be this large. Even if they wanted to go floor to ceiling, if budget wasn't a concern, for example, and they weren't getting standardized windows, they might not be able to do it.
But they may be able to. I mean, I don't think.
Not with the aluminum, not with,
I think.
standardly
I
available.
think you
2
can
by
transfer.
6.
I think you can transfer some of the loss into other areas and go with the, prescriptive instead of performance.
Okay, so
Yeah.
with the windows, then what do we want to recommend?
Perhaps the board could consider allowing the applicant and architect to work with staff to actually go back to the original post-beam mid-century modern style to enhance the window, the transparency
I think as much as possible
And still
introduce.
meeting code?
Yeah, still
The building
meeting code, and then just keeping a little bit more consistent head heights, and if it's in the corner. That's the entry piece. That's the piece that everybody's going to see. The rest of the building is all consistent, maybe in the same height. But then, spend that extra $1 or $2, and make that the design feature. That's the big buck. That's where the whole thing happens. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit more interesting. So.
Give me support. Okay.
Yeah, of the group, I think I'm probably the least critical of what's being proposed. So what I did like, Mr. Malakian, is kind of saying, overall to come up with a header height that's more unanimous around the building, right? So that's very easy to do what you got here. Then to work your exit windows and to integrate those into the design in such a fashion that they are complementing the overall design, which then leads to the living room area, let's say, and the floor to ceilings and that corner, and really work on making it a special feature. And I think that would be very helpful in itself.
And I like also Mr. Malikian mentioned the two corner windows when they meet, they can like meet each other, not separate.
Just an idea, and then it's up to you guys. It's like okay, so I'm more concentrating on the corner and trying to look at that and trying to understand. And obviously, if we're not able to get these the way that it was actually pieces of glass are made, so the other option is that maybe we cut the siding here and introduce some, members, vertical siding members, and then change some color or something there that gives this vertical element there right on the corner that brings this, which I think is like beautiful. And somehow, and these are just kind of thought. It doesn't have to be that the glass goes all the way to the top. It could be that just that whole section change into a little different, even I mean, it can be a metal right in the corner. The siding can change or something. I don't know.
So our concerns are in more specifically on the living room corner of working something that's more in line with a classical mid-century post and beam direction.
And it can this can cut off, and it can actually represent the beam there. It can be a kind of an exposed beam that comes in a corner and gives that post and beam kind of an effect that it cantilevers out. I mean, something. that brings it out of this off-the-shelf side windows that are being, placed in. But that's just thought. So if you guys are okay with it, we're fine. We can consider that and condition.
That's the way the board is leaning, and
But I think the general note and comment that you stated, that something can be proposed and architect and staff can work on, and these are just thoughts, and I'm okay with that too, unless you guys are. It doesn't have to be that the window goes up. It can be.
And so we'll see what sort of language they were able to formulate based on that condition. And then we had another condition, I guess, just simplifying the stone veneered stair tower with windows. So maybe if you would follow up with some of the conditions that we have so far.
Okay. There was one concern, I don't know if this is a condition or not, that there was too much stone and the lack of detail, which I think you've discussed.
Maybe simplifying the window will solve that.
That's what I'm thinking, that possibly simplifying that window on the stone tower will help that. I'm assuming you are referring to that, you talked about rectangular, I'm assuming you're meaning in a vertical orientation.
Yes.
Okay. It was mentioned to use the siding going back to the post and beam feel in a vertical orientation. Would that be a condition?
That's just a consideration. I think it's going to really enhance the project or take it back to its.
So staff would be looking to work with the applicant in trying to get more of a sense of the earlier design, the post and beam mid-century design, possibly introducing vertical elements, making the corner window in the living room read more as a consistent unit, cladding the corner with the same material. I would assume also kind of bringing it closer to the corner and eliminating the more solid areas of that, possibly introducing more height and a horizontal member that would allow for more consistency in head heights throughout.
More height?
If you look at the original design, there's a transom window
height.
essentially.
Perceived height, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the idea of that it's
Right.
sort of a transom
Exactly.
window type
Exactly.
approach. There might be verticals also introduced into the windows for egress. The windows that require egress, staff would work with them on that. Let's see if I have anything else here.
And the header heights.
To get them more standardized.
Right. Because all the conditions
think
really
that's
are
basically
concentrating on the corner, the living room corner, whereas in everything else kind of gets a unanimous header height. We'll
Right.
tie those in
Right.
together.
Right.
Okay. So could we entertain a motion of some sort?
Motion to approve with conditions?
I'll second.
I second that.
Got 2 seconds.
Well, that's good.
Well, I have a motion by Board Member Charkey and a second. I'm going to go with Board Member Benlian. This will be roll call. Board Member Benlian.
Yes.
Board Member Charchian.
Yes.
Board Member Malinkian.
Yes.
Mr. Chair Simonian.
Yes.
So we have a vote 4-0 to approve the project with staff's conditions as well as the conditions formulated by the board.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we move on to the last business of picking the new chairman for the year.
2 businesses, actually.
Two.
2. We have,
Okay.
we have election of the chairman and approval of the minutes from December the 15th.
You guys could go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
So, As far as the minutes are concerned, they're from which date? Ms.
From
Semidaitis?
December the 15th.
And we
of
had
last
limited
year.
individuals
I was
here.
absent.
And yes, Board Member Malikian was absent.
But the three of us were here.
The three of you were here. And this, if you recall, this was the controversial case at 1723 Sombra Drive. So we
Yes.
had Sombra Drive, West Mountain, and New York Avenue.
Are there any issues with those specific minutes?
Yeah, I don't think I moved for redesign.
On
The
which
second
project?
motion?
Sombra?
Yeah.
Did you move from our notation here?
I moved for approval with conditions.
Yeah, that's what it said.
No, but we had three.
That was the meeting where we had three motions made,
Yeah.
and the first two did not receive a second.
Yeah,
So,
the second one of the first two,
so the
I
second
did not.
one,
I was not the moving party on that.
so the first
I don't
one
recall
was
who was.
Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Where you passed the gavel, and there was a return for redesign. And then there was a second one by Board Member Charchian. I thought it was a return for redesign as well, with different conditions. There was a tweak in the conditions. Was that not correct? If not, what we could do is we can watch the tape and
No, now
Continue.
that you state that,
I think
it
that's
was
how
that
it
the
was.
case.
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
there were
was a
there was
tweak in the
there was just a,
conditions.
it was a
Yeah.
tweak
Yeah.
in the conditions specifically.
Okay.
It was this way.
Or if the board likes, we can take this matter off calendar, continue it to the next meeting, and have staff watch and review
I'm
it.
comfortable with that. Refreshing my memory there. I'm comfortable with that.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve by Board Member Benlian. Is there a second?
I second.
Board Member Charchian, thank you. In terms of roll call, Board Member Benlian?
Yes.
Board Member Charchian?
Yes.
Board Member Malikian?
Stay.
Oh, that's correct. Abstain and absent as well. And Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Or Chairman Simonian, thank
Yes.
you. So it passes 3-0.
Okay.
Which brings us to the election of the chair. If you recall, the most recent ones were Board Member Vrej Mardian and Board Member Alian Malikian. I don't believe Board
I
Member
was? I haven't been.
before Board Member
Mr. Malikian
Mardian.
hasn't been
I haven't
for a
been.
while, I don't think.
Board Member Charchi and Board Member Benlian have not.
And we can go for it. One of the two.
To you guys.
Mr. Bellion seems not to be interested. Chair.
Would you like
Up
to
to
be
you.
the chair? Do you want to be the chair?
No,
Or-
one of you two. Next year.
Well, whoever is available the most, right, that could be here. We have a limited board between now and April.
Yes.
And with the council member elections, I'll probably take a few weeks for a new member to be appointed. So we're chalking for the next 5 months. And so, you know, obviously we want to try to all be here as much as possible, but especially whoever the chairman is, would be nice if they're continually here. And
Yeah.
so that's the only item that's out there. And so Mr. Bellion has said he's casting a vote for either. And so with
And I
that,
have no preference. Defer to you if you'd like to be chair.
That's fine. So I guess.
Nominate Mr. Malikian.
Mr. Malikian it is. Okay, so I'm going to move over.
Well, I think we're done. you do your last business of the day, and then
Well,
we'll go.
that's it. No other items on the agenda,
Nope.
that's right?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you.